Thank you for joining us today. My name is Dr. Hath. I'm the Director of Learning here, and we know that the VOX series is a really important series where you bring thought leaders and experts to you and our community to share learnings, to share insights into how they continue to get better and provide the best learning experience for your students here at ISKL. So we're very pleased to bring to you today the co-founder of Inspire Citizens. His name is Aaron Moniz, and he'll introduce himself. But before that, just a little bit of housekeeping. Microsoft Translate is now put on a new code, so those of you who are doing it, we hope it works this time. Thank you for being here. There's some resources that are available, and the QR code should help you get started. So thank you for being here. I hope you enjoy it.
Good morning, everybody. Take the thought, or otherwise I'll play along. My name is Aaron Moniz. I am the co-founder of an organization called Inspire Citizens. We work with about 70 different international schools around the world, and every single day we are focused on global citizenship education, sustainability, service, equity and inclusion, and building school systems for that kind of work. And I love my job. I love the fact that every single day I get to work with students to inspire them to help make a difference in the world. I love the fact that I get to work with administrators and educators to take the great work that they're already doing and be slightly more intentional about change, service, and action. And I love the fact that I get to work with community stakeholders to think about how we can partner together as a community to expand that impact. And so today, I'm going to talk to you just a little bit more about, what are the systems that are currently in place at ISKL, what's some of the research behind service, sustainability, global citizenship, and why that makes a difference in learning. And then I'm going to put you guys to work. So we're going to go through a similar kind of experience that our students do to design a service and sustainability project. So you'll get a little bit of the theoretical, but you'll also get a little bit of the experiential and practical side. All right? And last thing before I get you guys to talk is this is what drives us as an organization every single day. Yes, there are needs for other organizations and CSR initiatives within our business to help out with this kind of service and sustainability work, but already between the great minds that we have in schools, between the educators that we have and what they're able to build, between our parent connections and our community connections, if we can get our students to be slightly more intentional about sustainability, about impact, about global citizenship, we've got millions of people across the world that can help to contribute to some of the major global issues, can help us to contribute to a more sustainable future. So I believe wholeheartedly that we as a community are exactly what's needed to make a difference in our world. And so enough about me. I want to give you guys a chance to connect because you're going to be talking to each other throughout the session. So introduce yourself to the person beside you. Find maybe one or two shoulder partners. Maybe we don't get the whole table to share. And I want you to answer this question. All right? Introduce yourself, say hi to the person beside you, and answer this question which says, what do you think the world needs now more than ever? All right? Let's take a couple minutes.
All right. Thank you, team. And I'm going to use a microphone just for more clear audio quality. But I want to walk you through who we are as an organization for a few minutes and help you understand how we work with schools around the world. We work with CIS, so we are CIS affiliated consultants, which means that a lot of schools that are undergoing CIS accreditation work with us to help them live that mission of global citizenship. And we do so, or we as an organization basically do four main things. We break it down to, one, we inspire schools. So we work with schools to set up whole school systems to help them better live their mission. Almost every school has some kind of mission around global citizenship or creating a better world or creating students that can take action for a better tomorrow. But not a lot of schools say, here are the tools that we use, here's the resources, here's how we build it into curriculum, here's how we prepare our teacher, so here's the evidence that we collect. And so we help schools develop that system, make sure that it fits on top of the academic systems that they already have at the school. We help them to develop capacity so that all of the coordinators and team leaders and teachers are able to deliver that kind of teaching and learning. And then we come in as consultants and we actually help to build the units, build the resources, build the programs, so that what we've designed as a community lives in the teaching and learning in the scope and sequence across the school. And then we collect evidence at the end of a year, partway through a year, and we say, are these the students that we're hoping, to create in our school? Is this your vision of a student who cares for all and creates a better world? And if we as an administrative team or as a community can say, yes, we're going in the right direction, that's how we know what we need to strengthen over the second year, third year, fourth year of our relationship, so that schools can build these systems within, and this work becomes self-directed and not guided by an outside consultant. So we build whole school systems. Another thing that we do is we work directly with educators, and we do curriculum design. So what we're going to participate in today is a little bit of a curriculum design challenge, where we're going to use our empathy to impact approach. So basically, it doesn't matter if it's your middle school math or your science or grade 3 geography or your 9th grade chemistry class, there's always a way that we can say, how does this link to a greater global issue that we want students to care about? What are some authentic ways for us to investigate this content and the issue? How do we apply our academic skills? And how can we link with a community partner and choose the right kind of action so that students can have an impact in the community? And by asking those 4 questions, we're able to level up any curricular context so that it turns into a service and action or global citizenship unit or project. And then we also work directly with students. So a lot of our student leaders, or a lot of student leaders are put into groups or positions of leadership, but have never had any formal training. So they don't know, how do you run collaborative protocols to make sure that all voices are heard within a group? How do you do needs analysis? How do you actually do project management? How do you help to collect evidence to see if you're reaching your goals or your KPIs as an organization? We expect them to have that, but they're 14, 15 years old. We have to actually help to develop these skills into our leadership programs. So we work directly with students, and we have resources for them to do this kind of work. And second to last, we also have a nonprofit, and so we work with CSR initiatives for other businesses or grants or with fundraising opportunities, so that schools who don't necessarily have the budget to do this kind of teacher training or student empowerment work get the opportunity to. And so we believe that this kind of global citizenship education should be for everyone and not just for the schools that have the budget. So we're trying to more equitably be able to offer that to schools within our communities. And then finally, we share stories. So a lot of schools are wondering, what does good global citizenship and service look like? How could I do something similar in my class or in my classrooms if I'm a teacher or if I'm a principal? And so we have a podcast where somebody on our team actually interviews students who've been involved in inspirational projects from around the world. And so you can hear grade 1 students, grade 3 students, high school students from different countries around the world talk about how this impact project changed them as people. And we also have a storyteller that works for our organization, and she interviews educators from different schools around the world, and they talk about how they turned this project into something that, or how they made this project become a reality, and they showcase some of the student evidence and the journeys that they went through. So our hope is that we can have as many people as possible living this kind of global citizenship, sustainability, and service work around the world, and we're trying as an organization to reach as many people as we can. And so I won't talk the whole time, I promise. I'm going to give you about 5 more minutes now just on why do we do this, right? Is it just a good idea? Is it just a buzzword? Is it something, that seems flashy to our community? Well, personally, I've had experiences with it where I've seen the impact it has on kids. Right? I've seen the difference between a classroom where we're sitting in chairs and we're answering worksheets and we're studying for the test versus the schools that say, how are we using these skills to link to real world issues and to make a difference or to be able to contribute positively to somebody else? And so there's a few keywords that I want to highlight in the research. When we look at what is the purpose behind global citizenship, service, and sustainability, right, it's the hands-on ability to be able to interact with our content. Again, I love the idea that a lot of people say, where am I ever going to use this math? Well, if we can give them an opportunity to use that math to analyze how it is that different plants are growing in different kinds of conditions in your own urban garden so that you can produce more food for your community, you have to use that math to answer the question, to build the prototype, to get the food for the community members, right? The math is relevant and it's hands-on, right? And then when you're doing that, it's not, oh my gosh, I'm a number on a test. Oh no, I'm the person that didn't, I didn't do as well as the student sitting beside me. It's me and our group. We've increased self-efficacy because we've been able to contribute. And using our skills in that kind of a real world application, right, is part of the reason why we do this service and sustainability work. A lot of research also shows that you've got increased commitment and increased student participation. I remember too, I come from a learning support background, and so I work with diverse learners and try to find ways to better engage our students. And a lot of the work that I did was, do I want students to learn these skills by themselves, in my classroom? Or am I going to involve my students in some kind of a community project where their writing is going to convince the cafeteria to change their menu? Is their writing going to be set out in a podcast so that all of the elementary can learn from their words? Right? When we give that real world context, we get more engagement from our students, we get increased participation, and so we're still developing those academic skills, but students can say, this is why I'm using it, and I need this skill so that I can do this thing that we're trying to do as a community. And so you see so much more increased participation, engagement because of that real world connection. And then one other point that I want to just sort of share is this idea of developing self-concept as change agents, right? When we have students who are saying, well, I'm not quite sure, the world is a big place, yeah, there's a lot of issues, and these are, maybe kind of scary to me, or, I'm just grade 3, what can I do, right? We can change that narrative towards agency, we can change that narrative towards hope, we can change that narrative towards the fact that what we do matters and we have a place in this world. And when students go through these different kinds of service, sustainability, and global citizenship projects, then we know that they help to create this future of I can. We are able to contribute. We are able to push things forward, and we're able to make a difference. And so part of engaging in this kind of work is changing that narrative within students and helping them to understand that they matter, they have impact, and they can make a difference, and they can use their learning and their skills to do that. So why is this relevant to ISKL? If you look at the guiding statements of the school, this idea of knowing yourself, care for all, creating a better world, this idea of using your competencies and passions to be able to shape or to have an ethical impact and shape global citizens, this is ultimately why we exist as an organization. And so doing this kind of service learning, sustainability, citizenship work within our curriculum helps us to live the foundational guiding statements of the organization. If we want kids to create a better world, we have to give them a chance to do that throughout their learning, not just on one, experiential learning trip or one volunteer activity. We need to build it into the hours that they spend every day as a 4-year-old, as a 5-year-old, as an 11-year-old, as a 15-year-old, so that after 15, 16 years of attending a school, they come out as somebody who can create a better world and have already tried multiple times throughout their learning journey. This idea here, the values of the school, right? They're beautiful. They're foundational to the work that we design into curriculum. And they're part of what students are reflecting on throughout their learning journey, recognizing the needs of people in the community, understanding the perspectives of others. That was a big theme that came up from this table when we asked what the world needs now. This living ethically and the SLRs, they are also linked to this global citizenship education. The fact that the school has a definition of global citizenship and resources. They've got service and sustainability manuals and tool sets that teach or that show educators how we can build this work into the school already. You've got, if you were a teacher here at ISKL, you could say, I want to do a better job of this, and you can go on the website, and you can click, and you can say, this is how I build it in. Here's a strategy that I can use. Here's a resource that I can use to try and build this lesson more deeply. I know that the school has a service and sustainability action plan and a DEIJ action plan that also helps the school to deepen this kind of work. And already there are so many different units and so many different experiences across the school where they're saying in grade 1 we do this already, in this project we do this already, in grade 3 we do this already. So ISKL is really starting to live, really does live, this work within the curriculum. And I want to show just a couple more programs too. Have you guys heard of the GAP program in high school before? Right? And so part of the trips that students go on when they can experience different cultures, they can get involved in service projects, they can get involved in coral reef restoration and sustainability projects and actually see it. That's an important part of this journey, right? When you think about the agency projects that are happening within middle school, students literally get a chance to spend time to figure out what they're passionate about, develop a skill, and find a way to have an ethical impact. And that's part of every middle school student's journey at ISKL. And then too, I remember I was watching the Praxis program presentations yesterday. And when I was hearing some of these students talk about how they partnered with another school to help them to understand circular economy and sustainable lifestyles, but they were discussing the importance of ionic and covalent bonds and how that's actually relevant to our consumption habits if we want to be a more sustainable community. To me, I remember when we were studying ionic and covalent bonds in chemistry in school, right? And having them understand that that matters and it helps us to live more sustainably and take action in the world to reduce our impact, that's when that real world learning comes in. So there's some really great project or programs that already exist in the school that live this kind of pedagogy. All right? And the reason why we've partnered together with Inspire Citizens and ISKL is that, yeah, there's a lot of great stuff already happening, and because of the school's dedication to this work, we're gonna see how we can strengthen it even further. And so part of what I'm here to do is help us as a community, teachers, educators, students, to break this down and say, what does it mean to care for all? What does it mean to create a better world? What does equity, inclusion, or ethical impact mean, and how can we actually do it? Whether you're an early years teacher, you're a grade 3 geography teacher, you're a middle school science teacher, you're a parent or community partner, right? We want to come together with some consistent tools, some similar resources so that we all as a community can contribute consistently and build a beautiful learning journey so that this mission is strengthened and can come true. And we're going to be doing that again through providing professional learning for teachers, student leadership programs, helping to design or improve some of the co-curricular programs. We're going to be looking at evidence collection and progress monitoring. We're going to be working with community stakeholders and community partners and parent groups so that we all understand this vernacular, so that really shaping global citizens is a focus. And so that's what I'm going to be doing as an accountability partner and as a consultant for the school. So what I want to do now is I want to introduce you to an approach that we use. And this is similar to what is happening already at ISKL, we might be using slightly different language, but this is something that I use with a lot of my different partner schools, and it's a similar approach that is used in service, sustainability, different types of global citizenship courses, programs, learning experiences. And again, it comes back to this idea of how do we build this into teaching and learning, or build this into different learning experiences. In front of you, what you'll see is that there's a set of these on the table. You'll see there's a blue visual that looks something like this. And earlier, when I talked about how do we design impactful curriculum or impactful student-initiated projects around service and sustainability, these are 5 really good questions that we can use to turn anything into a meaningful action project. The first one is, what do we want kids to care about and why? What's an issue that we want students to explore? What's an authentic need that exists within our community? And how do we identify it first? That's going to be our first part. The second part is, well, now that I've identified a need, what do I need to do to find out more? And there's strategies for that. So whether it's interviews or surveys or media or observations or data collection, there's all these different tools that we can use to encourage our students to find out more. And then, in a curricular context, we say, well, how can we use the writing? How can we use the literacy? How can we use the counting? How can we use our understanding of geography and climate, right, to try and address the challenge? And then what you're gonna see too in front of you, we'll use in a moment, is how can we take action? And so we have to help students understand action menus, what action is. You'll notice that nowhere in my presentation and nowhere on any of our resources will I use the word fundraising. Although fundraising is an important part of certain types, we're trying to encourage students to take different kinds of action. And we have to help teach that. We have to help people understand that there's a lot of different ways that we can work with our community partners. And then the second part of having an impact is, who are you partnering with? Right? Are you gonna leave it up to a 5-year-old to try and do this issue, to solve this issue on their own? Or is there already another organization that's doing something that they could partner with to take action to expand their impact? So and then we're gonna be reflecting the entire time. And part of how we can help as parents, and a really, really important part of the process, is we can do all the time, but unless we're stopping to reflect on what's actually happening to you. I know we were talking over here at the back table about some experiences during GAP. And yeah, if we can build in more deep reflection where we're asking students to understand, how did you identify a need in your community? And how is that maybe different than your experience? And how did you do something to help out with that? Reflecting and being intentional about reflection is a really important part of the process, and it's the glue that keeps everything together. So we're gonna go through identifying what we wanna care about, some strategies for action and community partnerships, some strategies for awareness, and then we're gonna develop a reflection protocol, all right? So first thing that we do, I wanna show you what that looks like in context. All right, so let's meet a couple of students and let's try and figure out what they cared about, how they took action, and how they used their learning in order to get there. All right, so my challenge to you is gonna be, what did they care about? How did they take action? And how do you see their learning taking place?
I am 6 years old, almost a half. So the problem is trash in the ocean, which does this to trash in the ocean. So there's the boat that comes that has a radar. So it with the claw it picks up the trash, but that doesn't have a simple receiver like this. You can't pick it up. And then it puts it in the boat, and then it takes it back to land, and then it puts it in the recycle. Wheel and axle, this is the axle, and this is the wheel and axle. It spins around, and then there's a line on it that pulls the stuff out. There's laser. Security camera, but also laser. The laser burns the trash. It's gonna pick up all the trash, so no more trash. In the room, and then the air will burn gassing.
thank you for your patience. And what do you think the student cared about? How did they take action? What did they do? Forgive the closed captions, they weren't 100% accurate. But yeah, what did they do to take action? How do you think they used maybe their reading, their writing, their speaking, their science, their design to be able to take action? Turn and talk at your tables. So, as I was checking in with the people at the tables, many of us recognized, right, that Jake was passionate about, trash and ocean pollution and the litter that they saw. I think it was actually inspired by a trip that they went on, to snorkeling somewhere, right? And then within this, they did some reading where they looked at what are the causes of ocean pollution. Right? They used a series of different books and curated text sets so that they could say, well, here's a story about how ocean pollution happens, and here's a story about litter, or here's a story about how we can help protect the world. And then so from their reading, you could also see that they practiced their writing in saying, when I do this, this kind of thing could happen. When I see this problem, I can make a solution that will do this kind of a thing. So it's cause and effect writing that needs to be done. That writing that they did also created the script that they used in order to make the video. And then if you saw what they had in their hands, was VOX robotics. And so it was design integration, where they were designing machines using robotics to try and then it was also linked to their science content. And their science content was simple machines, where you have to learn about levers, you have to learn about pulleys, you have to learn about, how simple machines work. And so they used design, used their simple machines, used their reading, used their cause and effect writing, and used their speaking to put together an advocacy video and a machine that solves a problem, right? And is that machine actually going to solve a problem? No, right? But the imagination, the intention, the fact that you're making a video that's raising awareness about an issue that you care about as a 6-year-old, and you read into, and you used your research, and you used your hands to make a difference. That's the kind of stuff that maybe in grade 3 now, we build the actual machine. Or we work together with a community to go and do some coral reef exploration, and we build some things that we can implant in the ocean to help the coral rebuild, right? So this might be a good scope and sequence for later action projects, but if we can get our 4-year-olds and our 5-year-olds doing cause and effect thinking about issues that are important to them and designing solutions, what do you think these kids can do when they're 25? When they're 36? So as long as we build in these foundations and we're able to do it over time, that's how we strengthen this global citizenship. So we're going to dive into our own, all right? Normally right now, if I was working with teachers, I would say, let's pick a subject area, let's pick your writing unit, let's pick your science class, and let's see how we can apply this approach to one of your classes. But we're just going to do it as a passion project, all right? We're thinking outside of academics. Right now, we're going to use this empathy to impact approach to design your own service and action project. First thing that we're going to do is we're going to identify what it is that you care about, what's an issue that you think we need to solve. And so our means of doing that, I'm going to introduce you to 3 resources. In the back of the room over there, you have the Sustainable Development Goals and their targets, right? So the United Nations said we have these 17 issues that we need to try and solve, and underneath each of these issues, there are some targets, which are ways that we can contribute to this global issue. And so if you want to look at the middle school, high school, adult policy version, then they're over there on that table closest to the buffet. If you want to look at what our elementary students use to look at the same goals, it's behind the pillar. And if you want to look at how we break down these same issues for early year students from ages 3 to 5, you can look at the resource that's just there in front of our media team. Okay? So our challenge right now is to go take a look at an issue that you're really passionate about, maybe 1 or 2, And you are going to say, all right, this is something that I want to solve. And if you want to use a paper, you can. If you'd like to go paperless, that's okay too. But basically our intention is to now say, all right, this is an issue that I care about, and I'm going to write it down up here. You don't have to write the name of the target. You know, you could say the general issue. You could write a sentence that, you know, is taking the issue and reframing it slightly. But our whole point right now is identify something that you care about that you want to solve. All right? And we're going to put it right there on the top of our planner. Produce food. Is there a way at home? Sustainable use of resources. Is that something that we could set up a family project of? And so the same targets, but broken down into more accessible. So even in that one, like, I'll share a QR code with you in a moment so that you can share all authors of this one. Flourish? Yeah. So the,
So we're now at a point where we've identified we want students to care about this. You know, we think that, you know, sharing, reducing, reusing, and recycling as a community clothing swap is something we think is important. Some of us have looked at, you know, growing nutritious food within our community or in our homes. Maybe that's what we care most about. So now we're going to go to the next step. We're going to jump to the end and say, what's a way that we can take action? All right, there's three documents on the tables in front of you, and there's two different ways that we're going to look at impact, especially when you think about the mission statement of the school and ethical impact. Part of it is choosing the right kind of action and thinking about who we can partner with. All right, so if you look at these definitions, sometimes we can get involved in direct service, so working directly in the coral reefs or working directly with the migrant population or refugee center. But sometimes we can also just share our research. Maybe it is that we want to just inform our community about something through sharing research or through advocacy. And other people don't know that a t-shirt takes, you know, 2,500 liters of water to make, you know, and that's probably why we shouldn't buy 10 of them a year, you know? Maybe we could share that way. Or else there's indirect service, right? So maybe if the student cares a lot about, you know, World Wildlife Foundation, and they want to help take pictures or create social media that supports what the WWF is trying to do, that's another type of indirect service, all right? I love this document. We created it because it helps open up people's minds to different types of action. It's also just participation. That's a type of action in service. So do we want our kids to do some composting on their own? Right? If we've all got iPads and phones at home, right, could we be making a movie that teaches somebody about something? Could we be publishing an ebook so we can teach our cousins about something? Right? Could we be running a workshop? Hosting a small event? Just like we were saying with our clothing swap and, you know, sharing is caring, you know, for the environment between our communities. Yeah, that's a little workshop that we do. Right? Adapting lifestyle. So maybe our challenge is what's a way that we can reduce our water usage, or what's a way that we can actually calculate our food waste at home and see if we can make it less next week. See if we can make it less next week. That's us adapting our lifestyle. And maybe we want to be creating, you know, and doing art and making things that showcase the issue that we care about. Maybe we want to be like Jake and we want to design a prototype, or we want to build a community garden, or we want to make, you know, something with us that we can plant, you know, in the coral reefs, you know, when we go on our snorkeling trip on summer break. Maybe we want to run a little social enterprise. Right? Maybe it is that we do want to do the clothing swap, but then we also want to turn that into a little business so we can talk to people about sustainable businesses and how you can do good for the world while also making money. And we run that with our 3rd and 4th graders. We could. Second part is, who are you going to partner with? Because if I make this really awesome poster and I put it up in a hallway that nobody walks through, that my action didn't really have any impact, and also would say posters are the strongest choice, right? So what kind of action is going to work for which people? So is this a family-based initiative? Well, what's the best way for our families to get together? Is that hosting an event? Might be a good way to get families together. Is there a local NGO or a business that you know that, uses sustainable products. And then maybe we're going to do our birthday parties, at this, restaurant instead. And then we're all going to go on a farm visit to meet the farmers, see where the food is made. And then we're going to go do our birthday party at this restaurant. Awesome, right? That's how we might be partnering with a sustainable enterprise to host an event. So it's what kind of action you can do, but also who could you partner with to have more impact? All right? So your challenge right now, and ISKL, I'm not sure where this is outward facing or if it is, but there are a bunch of organizations, and some of you probably work with them or already know of them, right? But we have a lot of different organizations in KL that are doing this kind of work already. And so maybe we could just connect with one of them or pull one of these groups in to support the action that we want to do. All right? So your challenge right now is to think about, on the left-hand side of your visual, down here, what's an action that you could take then? Right? Who could you partner with, and what kind of action could you take in order to do something about that issue that you cared about? You said you cared about sustainable clothing, reducing, reusing, recycling, right? Who could you partner with, and what kind of action could you take with your students to make a difference? Now, there's action menus and community partner maps in front of you on the table. All right? Let's give you another 6 or 7 minutes to just have a go and talk to your partners, all right?
I love the fact that when you're trying to get people's attention, they don't want to stop talking because they love the conversations they're having. That's a great sign, right? And I just, first of all, I want to say thank you, because already I can see about 25, 30 different, action projects that we can either do at home, we can do together as a community, right, that are going to have impact. And they're intentionally focused on service, sustainability, or global issues that are relevant in our community. Right? And just in the last 20 minutes, right, we've come up with all these different things that could have impact. Right? So thank you. I appreciate that. Give yourselves a round of applause. I want to make sure I honor everybody's time here, but we're now at a point where we've identified an issue, right, by using the Sustainable Development Goal targets. Right? We've looked at what are different types of action. And we've said we might even have challenged our students to deepen their action, or if students are always doing one kind of action, we're thinking about how they might diversify or how they could use a secondary type of action to involve more people in our community well-being wilderness walks as well, right? And so that's great. And now 2 last things that I want to focus on, and we're not going to spend a whole lot of time discussing them, but if we really do want students to understand more about the issue, we can't just tell them to do, we can't just tell them to act. We have to actually help them to investigate and explore the issue. So if we are looking at, responsible production and consumption, and we're looking at clothing and reducing and reusing, recycling, repairing, can we interview anyone? Can we go and do an observation or a field visit with a sustainable clothing company, right? And look at how they combat fast fashion by doing upcycle, clothing repairs. That would be an awesome interview or an observation opportunity. Right? Could we collect data? Could we go into our closets and do a closet audit and say, how many of these clothes have you worn, or how many of these clothes were bought this year, and get our students to actually count the amount of water plus the new items of clothing that we bought, and just put the math together about, do you want to do something different about that? So finding an authentic way to investigate the issue is a really, really important part of the process. And in a curricular setting, right, we have to use data for our math anyways. Should we just be using numbers on paper, or should we be using liters of water from items of clothing within our own closets to make us understand that this is an issue that we're contributing to now, and we can use the math to make a difference? Right? So these authentic strategies for investigation help to deepen the connection. When you think about Jake, was Jake just reading a book on, something else, or was Jake reading a book on oceans, ocean health, and ways that we can make a difference? Well, practicing literacy, but practicing literacy around global citizenship. So thinking about strategies for investigation, and if you look on your table, and if you want to take a picture of it, this is just a really good breakdown of effective investigation strategies as well. And any one of these could be a fun home project if you wanted to support it. Lastly, and then we'll close up, is what was the part that we said was the glue that holds everything together? This is the reflection. So yes, it's great if we do. Yes, it's great if we investigate. Yes, it's great if we identify issues, but we always have to be investigating. And so even if it's just repeating questions around, hey, how did this experience help you understand the perspective of others? How do you think other people, feel, when we are going on this gap trip and we are doing this service activity? What are ways that I could even call my student once a day and say, hey, what did your experience today help you understand about the perspectives of others? How did your experience today help you to understand, identify, or recognize a need within our community? And how is that helping you think about action? How is that helping you think about your choices? Right, so finding, especially something from the school values maybe, right, to reflect on throughout the process helps them focus on the key elements of why we do this work and why this helps us to change as people, why this matters in the world. So just having those supportive discussions at home and revisiting those key whys, especially around needs, around empathy, around why does this matter, how is this making a difference, right? How are you learning from others? This is a really, really important one. A lot of times we want to just act and we just want to do and we want to give, but a lot of times we're not exploring what's the wisdom from the people that you're working with in this experience. How are we learning from others and not just thinking that we can give to others? How are we learning from and acting with? All right, so these are just really good ways to support reflection at home. And that's the cycle. What do you care about? How can you take action? How do you link it to some kind of learning goal? How are you going to investigate? And how are you making sure to use that really critical and important reflection throughout the process? And so this is a different iteration of this is what informs a lot of the work that's happening at ISKL. A different iteration of this is what happens in CAST projects and agency projects and GAP programs and different things like that. But also this process is inquiry, design thinking, it's service learning, it's what NGOs and different types of community engagement groups use, right? And this is how we can use it to help shape global citizens who want to create a better world and care for all at home. And I want to just close, on this note that it's not about us redesigning systems. It's about us being slightly more intentional with the stuff that we're already doing. Right? As a family, we want to focus on well-being and developing a love for nature. Well, let's be more intentional about that, and let's bring our cameras and let's turn it into a photography project to find native species when we do our family walk together on Sundays anyways. Right? It's not about doing all these different things. It's about slight shifts to the work that you're already doing at a school or at home supporting, right? And that's how we as a school community become centers for impact, right? And I want us to just focus on this idea that, right, if you're going to do that family project and you've invited these other people to get involved, and then in the grade 1 team, they're already doing this impact project, and then the grade 5 team has this type of service project, and then the GAP programs are doing this kind of project, and the middle school agency are doing these kinds of projects. We as a larger community we have the potential to be helping, or working with or learning from hundreds of thousands of people. Right? And if we can strengthen that year after year and get involved in different kinds of action projects, then just like I said at the beginning, we are exactly what is needed for widespread impact. We just have to be a little bit more intentional about how we do what we're already doing. All right? On behalf of all the people or the environment or plants that will be impacted by the work that you do, thank you. And I'll be around if you have any more questions. I'll have to leave at about 10:41 in order to get to middle school. But thank you for your time today. I hope that this was useful to you, and please give yourselves a round of applause for your great work.
Can we have a round of applause for Aaron, please? Thank you for staying with us. This is a really important part. School can only do so much, and it's really important that these values are shared amongst the families, and it's those slight tweaks that we do as parents that help make those connections stronger when we learn about it in the classroom. And so when students come to us and say, oh, we did this as a family together, oh, we picked up trash at the beach, or, we cleared our closet and we donated these, or we upcycled and we made these out of those things, or my t-shirt ripped and, I learned how to sew because we fixed a button or whatever. All of those little experiences on the larger scale put together really do build global citizenship and create agency for our students to make a difference in the world. So thank you for being our partners in that learning for our students, and we hope you have a great afternoon. Please stay and ask questions, enjoy the food, and we're so glad you're here. Thank you.